I occasionally get comments on my videos or on my channel page saying that I'm either wasting my time in trying to change the minds of the people whose fallacious mental diarrhea I'm mopping up, or that my occasionally insulting tone in dealing with these dishonest rectal intellectuals is either unnecessary or counterproductive. A recent exchange I had with a particularly odious example of the creationist kind in the comments section of one of my earlier videos prompted me to use it as an example to explain why I disagree with the latter, and while I'm at it, clear up a misconception about the former. So to address the first point, I'd like to make it clear that I'm under no illusions about the possibility of my videos giving any food for thought to such synaptically challenged individuals as Nephilim Free, I2I 35, Mystical Forest Gump, and many others. These people are way far too gone to be reached by anyone other than themselves, and I hold out very little hope in their abilities to pull out their heads from the comfort of their current resting places for long enough to allow the fresh air of reason to clear the stench from what remains of their minds. I do, however, hope that my videos might provide less indoctrinated, more open-minded individuals at least a fleeting glimpse of the opposing arguments and at the mendacity of those who would promote superstition and ignorance over facts and knowledge. And that leads me to the second point. Criticisms of my tone and language as counterproductive with regards to this hope are perfectly valid, but I'm of the opinion that the claims I'm rebutting have been addressed laudably and professionally countless times by YouTubers that are much more capable than I. Anyone offended with my style has more than enough choice with regard to finding wonderfully informative videos that are more suited to their sensibilities. Rather than just adding a few more contributions to this excellent body of work, I've taken my alternative approach for two main reasons. Firstly, in the words of the great Mark Twain, power, money, persuasion, supplication, persecution. These can lift a colossal humbug, push it a little, crowd it a little, weaken it a little, century by century, but only laughter can blow it to rags and atoms at a blast. Against the assault of laughter, nothing can stand. I, for one, endorse Mr. Twain's views wholeheartedly, and I fully intend to pour as much scorn and ridicule on these dishonest charlatans as my vocabulary allows. As long as they continue espousing them, I'll be giving their ludicrous ideas all the respect they deserve, no more, no less, and I hope that in doing so I'll show them up for the festering intellectual dung heaps that they are. If the public humiliation doesn't at least give these mentally impaired cretins pause before opening their ignorant traps, the rest of us can at least have a laugh or two at their expense. Having said that, I won't resort to ad hominem attacks, and should anyone be tempted to accuse me of such, I'll urge them to look up the difference between an ad hom and an insult. Secondly, I have to admit that the blatant dishonesty and almost unbelievable willful ignorance displayed by these filthy little liars just pisses me off, and I have little inclination to hold back my temper when I call them out on their despicable behavior. It's just that kind of behavior that inspired me to make this video to clarify the motivations behind my production style. It came in the form of a spammed comment that was pasted to a number of users, including myself, in the comments section of Holy Hallucinations 11, where I took the time to rip P.P. Simmons a new sphincter over their erroneous assertions regarding the origins of biological chirality. The user in question goes by the name of 5TonyVVVV. I'm not sure why this gentleman chose such a repetitive name when he set up his YouTube account. Perhaps for some reason his keyboard was a little sticky at the time, or maybe his medication ran out halfway through typing, but in any case his username's a bit of a mouthful, so for the purposes of this video I've decided to shorten it a little and will be referring to him as Dicklick. So let's get on with it and see how he started off this little exchange.
At the living dinosaur. This is complete garbage. You do not understand chirality at all. Racemic mixtures are not the building blocks of life, and the Miller experiment was controlled. Miller put what he wanted and used a trap. These reactions would never occur on a primordial Earth. The moronic atheist has faith in some chemistry unknown to life, and you say it happened a long time ago but can't test or repeat it in any whatsoever.
And before I had a chance to respond, he immediately followed up with the following diatribe.
And you can't get to evolution, dummy, until you have chemistry, information for abiogenesis, which is impossible. It's nothing more than stubborn logic by moronic atheist chemists.
Now, I initially was tempted to ask Dicklick why he seemed to think that punctuation marks and capitalization were devised for purely decorative purposes, since he seemed to be scattering them over his prose like confetti. And also why, although he seemed unable to master such simple concepts as basic grammar, he felt that anyone should listen to his opinions on more complex topics such as organic chemistry. I ignored the impulse though, because what struck me was his accusation that I'd claimed that life formed from a racemic mixture. Since this would be factually wrong, I found it difficult to believe that I'd said this, but rather than making assumptions, I took the time to watch the whole video myself to see whether I'd misspoken and whether the fucktard had a point. Of course, it turned out that I'd indeed said no such thing, so I challenged Dicklick with the following reply. Racemic mixtures are not building blocks of life? Kindly point me to the exact timestamp in the video where you claim I said they were. You'll find that you cannot because I did not. Either you didn't watch the video that you presume to comment on, are too stupid to understand the video that you're commenting on, or are just another lying creationist prick. Or all three. Having caught the little wankstain lying through his teeth for Jesus, he of course didn't provide a timestamp and simply reasserted his claim and added a new deliciously outrageous falsehood to his growing collection of crimes against the Ninth Commandment. Apparently the shit streak on the gusset of humanity was so profoundly stupid that it didn't occur to him that the person who actually wrote the words that he was mining so arrogantly might actually be in the position to spot his repugnant dishonesty.
Life from simple chemicals is impossible. You did say this, saying amino acids were made and this proves life can emerge. The stubborn-minded moronic atheist always forgets information and digital code for perfect folding to form one single protein and the major problem for chirality.
I first repeated my request for him to point out exactly where I made my first supposedly erroneous claim. Timestamp, please. And then followed up by pointing out the compounding of his original sin. And by the way, at 2 minutes and 30 seconds I specifically say that no scientist or rationalist claims that the Miller-Urey experiment proves that life can emerge from chemical processes, just that it demonstrates that one necessary step is physically possible. This is the exact opposite of what you asserted I said. You are a lying toad and you should be ashamed of yourself. If your position is so strong, why do you have to resort to such dishonesty? Have you ever asked yourself that? The fine Christian, of course, was unable to muster even a feeble attempt at a defense for his indefensible behavior and instead fell back to those faithful old standards of the creatard with no honest argument to make, changing the subject and the ad hominem attack.
Lol, using atheist logic and mind tricks just make you look more foolish than you already are. Go learn some basic chemistry. Go learn homochirality.
Of course, I wasn't particularly inclined to allow this morally challenged reptilian little piss stain to get away without answering for his complete disregard for concepts such as honesty and decency, so I continued. So you're not going to explain why I'm factually wrong in pointing out that you're a liar? You're just going to ignore it, change the subject, and start slinging ad hominems as a substitute? Kindly explain exactly and specifically why I'm wrong and why you're not a liar. And that, of course, left Dicklick with only one viable response. That's right. Rather than man up and face the music, the cowardly little prick turned tail and headed for the hills, and in doing so beautifully displayed the honorable behavior and intellectual honesty that's the hallmark of the steadfast creationist. So I think that pretty much sums it up as far as I'm concerned. Dicklick is no different to the morally bankrupt swindlers who peddle their lies via video here on YouTube, and in many ways is a typical example of one. I have no patience for this kind of behavior and certainly absolutely zero respect for it. So while creationists keep perpetuating the same old lies, while they keep misrepresenting the work of the same scientists that make their comfortable lives worth living, while they keep deliberately disrespecting truth in favor of primitive and demonstrably erroneous superstition, I'm going to keep calling a spade and showing them up for what they really are.